Have you guys ever been to the last show of a tour or a concert series? Right? Maybe even not just any concert, maybe the final show ever. The one where the band knows it. No more chances. No more next city. This is the last time that they will play these songs for months or maybe even years. If you have, then you know that you can tell. You can see it in the way that they perform. They're not saving anything for tomorrow because there is no tomorrow. They leave everything on that stage. Every bit of passion, every bit of energy, they finish the way they started. All in. Now, I remember watching the GOAT and a very close second their final basketball tours growing up. By the last game, they were exhausted, beat up, running on fumes. But when they walked out on that court for the final time, they gave everything they had because that's what it means to finish strong. You don't coast. You don't hold back. You give it all. Over the last few weeks, we've been in our series, Hyped, looking at the life of John the Baptist as an example of what it means to be hyped for Jesus. The man was all in. In week 1, we learned that every one of our voices matters. And in week 2, we saw that our actions needed to be backed up by our words. This week, we're going to take a look at how John the Baptist crossed the finish line. And spoiler alert, he didn't just coast. Instead, he proclaimed Jesus right up to the very end of his life. He gave everything he had. But here's where this gets uncomfortable. John the Baptist paid the ultimate price for following Jesus. Things weren't going very well for him, and he knew it. He knew that standing up to powerful people in a politically dangerous time could cost him everything. And to be clear, John the Baptist wasn't naive. He chose that path anyway. So we're going to look at the end of his story tonight, his farewell tour, if you want to put it that way. And it's going to be difficult. But before we jump in, I want to make sure that we understand something. That following Jesus takes courage. But that courage is going to look different for each person. Not everyone is called to risk their life like John the Baptist, but everyone is called to be faithful, even if it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, or costly in other ways. And here's what I'm talking about. Like we said over the last few weeks, John the Baptist had been out in the wilderness, calling people to repentance, baptizing them, pointing them towards Jesus. His entire life backed up his message. Everything he did screamed conviction. But John didn't just proclaim Jesus when it was safe or convenient. He proclaimed Jesus to everyone, including people in power who didn't want to hear it. And that's what got him killed. The Gospel of Matthew tells us what happened. Check this out. Matthew chapter 14. When Herod Antipas, the ruler of Galilee, heard about Jesus, he said to his advisors, "This must be John the Baptist raised from the dead. That is why he can do such miracles." Herod was a Jewish ruler who ultimately reported to Rome. But he wasn't exactly known for his faithfulness to God. And the fact that his mind went straight to John the Baptist when he heard about Jesus' miracles is pretty telling because Herod was a key player in John the Baptist's death. Let's keep reading, verse 3. For Herod had arrested and imprisoned John as a favor to his wife, Herodias, the former wife of Herod's brother Philip. John had been telling Herod, it is against God's law for you to marry her. Okay, so I apologize in advance, but this is about to get a little confusing, and I'm going to try to clear it out for you, but you see, Herod had divorced his first wife to marry a woman named Herodias, who just so happened to be the ex-wife of Herod's brother, Philip, his sister-in-law. Right? Not great. But to make matters worse, Philip was still alive. And marrying your living brother's ex-wife was absolutely against Jewish law. But however, because of the power that Herod had, people were too afraid to confront Herod about it, except John the Baptist. He called Herod out, and he even called him out publicly. Everyone knew it, and Herod wanted to kill him for it. But he didn't, because he was afraid that the people might riot. And if the people rioted, then Rome might remove him from power for not being able to keep order. So, John sat in prison until this happened. Verse 6. But at a birthday party for Herod, Herodias' daughter performed a dance that greatly pleased him. So he promised with a vow to give her anything she wanted. At her mother's urging, the girl said, "I want the head of John the Baptist on a tray." Then the king regretted what he had said, but because of the vow he had made in front of his guests, he issued the necessary orders. So John was beheaded in prison, and his head was brought on a tray and given to the girl, who took it to her mother. Later, John's disciples came for his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus what had happened. So there's a lot going on here, literally, and none of it is okay. But if you sift through Herod's pride and obviously dysfunctional family dynamics, we see that John the Baptist's integrity demanded he point people to God no matter what. Why? Because he was convinced. Because he was passionate. Because following Jesus mattered more to him than anything else, even his own safety. The question is, does following Jesus matter more to you than anything else? John the Baptist paid the ultimate price for his faithfulness, and like we said earlier, not everyone is called to risk their life for their faith, but John's story still has something to teach us about what it looks like to follow Jesus with courage. So there's 3 ideas from John the Baptist's story, or his example, that jump out to me. Ways that his story challenges us about what it means to follow Jesus no matter what. And the first is this. Number 1, following Jesus always costs something. John the Baptist stood for truth even when it cost him his life. And here's what we need to be honest about, is real faith takes courage. And now let's be clear. For some people in parts of the world, following Jesus is extremely dangerous. It can mean persecution. It can mean prison. It can mean disownment from your family. And it can mean even death. But for most of us here, especially us in the United States, the cost is different. It looks different. It might mean that we might lose some popularity. Or it might mean that our friendships look different from what they used to look like. Or maybe it could mean that we just miss out on an opportunity, or being laughed at, or being misunderstood. The cost looks different for different people. But following Jesus is never free. Jesus even mentioned this when he said this to his followers in John chapter 16. "I have told you all of this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows. But take heart, because I have overcome the world." Notice what Jesus said. You will have many trials and sorrows. It's a guarantee. But we can still have peace. Not because life gets easier, but because Jesus has already conquered sin and death. And this means that nothing, not even death, gets to have the final word. Only Jesus does. So here's what we're not saying. We're not saying to go looking for trouble. We're not saying to be obnoxious or try to invite persecution. And we're definitely not saying picking fights with people just to prove how courageous you are or you think you are. What we are saying is this: following Jesus means being who you are in Christ all the time. All the time. Not just when it's easy, not just when everyone's watching, not just at church. It means standing for what's right even when no one else will, no matter the cost. John the Baptist's life is a reminder that courageous faith allows us to be everything God created us to be. To have a life with purpose, to proclaim Jesus to the end, so that when we stand before him in eternity, we stand before him without regret. The second thing that we see from John the Baptist's story is this. Number 2, where you look is where you'll go. How many of you have ever mowed a lawn? Right? You know the secret to keeping your line straight, right? If you look down at your mower the entire time, you're going to leave what? Wavy lines, right? It sounds counterintuitive, but the key is to lock your eyes on something farther in the yard or farther in front of you on the other side and walk straight towards it without looking away. Right? If you keep your focus on it the entire time, you'll get a perfect line every time. It's the same way with following Jesus. Where you look is where you will go. Okay? Hebrews 12 puts it this way. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Did you catch that? That we run by keeping our eyes on Jesus, not our circumstances, not on what we are afraid of, not on what other people think, but on Jesus. We stay strong when our focus is on him through prayer, through the reading of his word, through spending time with encouraging other believers, through remembering that what we are facing now is not the end of the story. No matter how difficult things are for you right now or how difficult they might ever get for you in the future, keeping your focus on Jesus, that's what gives you the strength to persevere. The third thing that we need to remember from John the Baptist's story is this. Number 3, your story isn't just yours. Here's something you might not realize. People are watching you. And not in a creepy way, but in the way that people naturally pay attention to how other people live. Your friends, your teammates, your classmates, your younger siblings, they notice more than you think. They notice when you stand up for someone when everyone else is tearing them down. They notice when you tell the truth even when lying would have been easier. They notice when you walk away from something when everyone else is diving into it. And here's the thing. You might not ever even hear about it. They probably won't come up to you and say, hey, I saw what you did and it challenged me. They probably won't ever mention it, but make no mistake, it matters. Your influence helps shape the way others think and how they act. And did you know that just like Jesus, John the Baptist had disciples? People who committed their lives, their entire lives, to learning from his example? Why would they do this? Because his faithfulness inspired them, and they wanted to learn to live and be like him. And the passage we read earlier told us that when he was killed, They didn't scatter. Instead, they came for his body and they buried him. And then they went and found Jesus and told him what happened. John the Baptist's influence didn't die with him, and yours won't either. The way you follow Jesus today might be the reason somebody else starts following him tomorrow. Following Jesus with that kind of courage that John the Baptist had, I mean, that's a lot. Sometimes we sit here and think, man, I can't be like that. This dude's a Bible character. He's no different than you and me, other than we actually live in a house and we don't eat locusts. But what we're talking about tonight, we know it's not easy. Nothing in life that's amazing is ever easy. But I also don't want to assume that everyone in this room is ready for this right now. And that's okay. If you're not, please come talk to any one of our leaders in this room. We would love to help you take one step forward in your walk with God. But here's what I want you to know. If you are ready, that's okay. Because here's what I want you to know. Here's what I want you to know, even if you say you're not ready. You are capable of this type of bravery. You were made for this kind of commitment. You just have to choose it. And that starts with taking at least one step forward. So if you're ready, here's 3 steps that I have for you that you could take. And the first is this. Number 1, pray for courage. This is something that you can do every single day. Each morning before you even check your phone, pray this simple prayer. God, give me the courage to stand for you today. But my challenge is don't just say it and move on. Actually take a minute and talk to God about it. Tell him why you're nervous or what you're nervous about. Tell him what worries you or scares you. Be specific with him. He's your father. Maybe it's having a potentially tough conversation with a friend who's making really destructive choices and you're worried about losing that friendship. Or maybe it's being honest with your parents about something you've been hiding. Or maybe it's inviting someone at school to join us at youth group. Whatever it is, talk to God about it. Tell him something like, God, I need courage at lunch today when the conversation goes where I know it's going to go, and I need courage not to go along with it. And then watch. Watch how God shows up. And you might even be surprised that when that moment arrives, you might actually feel ready for it in a way that you didn't before. Pray for courage. The second step is this. Number 2, reach out to someone whose faith inspires you. Think about someone in your life who shows courage in their faith. Right, maybe it's an adult in the church. Maybe it's your small group leader. Maybe it's a friend who isn't afraid to talk about Jesus. Or maybe it's somebody sitting next to you here in this room right now. Whoever it is, reach out to them and have a conversation where you simply thank them. It might sound something like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I really respect the way that you live out your faith. It's not always easy, but you do it anyway. And that's challenged me. Most people have no idea that their faithfulness is making an impact. And you telling them might be exactly what they need to hear. And then if you're even willing to take it a step further than that, ask them for advice. Ask them how they stay strong. Ask them how they handle pressure, and ask them what they do when following Jesus gets difficult. In general, people love being asked for wisdom or advice. And it will be an incredible opportunity for you to learn something that you can actually use. And while you're at it, you could even ask them to pray for you. Right? Be specific, like, would you pray for me this week? I'm trying to be more bold about my faith at school, and honestly, I don't know if I can handle it. Right? You would be amazed at how honored people are when you ask them something like that. And I'll be honest, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, the people, they'll say yes. They'll pray for you. And having someone in your corner who's a little further down the Christian road than you, that changes everything. Number 3, the third thing you can do is this. Take a bold step. Take some time alone with God and ask him to show you one area of your life where it is difficult to live for Jesus. Maybe it's with certain friends, and you know exactly the group that I'm talking about because it just popped into your head. The ones where you feel like you have to be a different version of yourself just to fit in. The ones where faith never comes up because you are afraid of what they will think. Maybe it's online and the stuff you watch, the accounts you follow, the version of yourself that you present online doesn't look actually like anything or like someone who follows Jesus. Maybe it's at school. Maybe it's the way you talk about people, the way you treat that one kid who everybody picks on, the choices you make when everyone else is making the same bad choices and it feels easier to just go along with it. Maybe it's at your home. Maybe you are the only one trying to follow Jesus, and it's difficult. Maybe your parents want nothing to do with it, or they are a bad example of a Christian to you, and you are trying your hardest to follow Jesus. Whatever it is, identify just one area, just one, and then take a bold step in that area. I'm not asking you to completely overhaul your life overnight, right? I'm asking you to take one step, one baby step, one conversation where you speak up, one moment when you're honest, one decision to walk away from something that's been pulling you away from Jesus. And if you want the best shot at being able to stand strong in that moment, I would encourage you to talk to someone who will hold you accountable. Tell them what you are doing and ask them to check in with you and to see how you are doing. Because one step leads to another. One choice builds courage for the next choice. You don't have to become John the Baptist overnight, but you can start by taking steps toward being more and more like Jesus. That's what we're called to do anyway. And none of us is going to be perfect at this. But we'll never be better if we don't start somewhere. We can be willing and we can say yes to God even when it's scary.